Empires, throughout history, they've risen from the ashes of war, conquest, and ambition. They've grown from humble beginnings to dominate entire continents, shaping culture, trade, technology, and the world's political landscape. But there's a dark truth that follows every empire: they all eventually fall. The Roman Empire, the Mongol Empire, the British Empire. These colossal powers once controlled vast territories and amassed wealth, yet all have crumbled into dust. The question is, could the United States, the world's current superpower, be the next empire to fall? Number 1. The life cycle of an empire. Empires aren't built overnight. Their rise is usually marked by a clear vision, a leader, a people, or a movement pushing boundaries, extending territories, and creating legacies. But with this growth comes the seeds of decline. Historians have identified key stages in the life cycle of an empire. First, there's the rise. Visionaries conquer, they create wealth, they establish dominance. Next, the empire enters a phase of cultural flourishing, economic prosperity, and technological advancements. But soon, cracks begin to appear. Expenditures rise, social inequality deepens, corruption creeps in. And finally, the empire begins to fragment under its own weight. Take Rome, for example. In the first few centuries, the Roman Empire flourished, advancing engineering, military strategies, and governance. But by the time the empire reached its zenith, the very systems that allowed it to thrive began to corrode. Corruption, political instability, and economic mismanagement weakened the empire from within, leading to its eventual collapse. Number 2. Internal decay, the core of the decline. Rome's downfall wasn't just about military defeat. It was about internal decay. As the empire expanded, it became harder to manage. The cost of maintaining a vast territory, securing borders, and paying for an enormous army stretched resources thin. The Roman people, once proud and hardworking, became divided. Urban elites enjoyed unimaginable wealth, while the common folk struggled to survive. Over time, Rome lost its unity. Political corruption spread like wildfire, as leaders fought for power at the expense of the people. Sound familiar? History has shown us that when an empire loses its sense of unity, when it allows corruption to infiltrate the highest levels of government, and when it forgets the very people who once made it great, that empire's days are numbered. Number 3. The United States, a modern empire. Now let's turn to the United States. Built on ideals of freedom, democracy, and opportunity, the US quickly rose to become a global power. By the mid-20th century, after World War II, the United States emerged as the world's undisputed superpower. The American dream became a symbol of prosperity and success. But as with every empire, cracks are beginning to show. The US has faced numerous challenges over the last few decades. Internally, political polarization has reached an all-time high, with deep divisions between the left and right. We see constant political gridlock, where nothing gets done. The economy has seen increasing inequality. The rich get richer, while the middle class shrinks. The political system has become a battleground for corporate interests, while ordinary citizens feel more and more disenfranchised. Is the US becoming the new Rome? Number 4. Economic overextension, a familiar tale. Empires don't fall just because of political corruption. They also fall because of economic overextension. When an empire spreads too thin, it begins to exhaust its resources. The United States is a prime example. The US military has bases in over 70 countries, and the cost of maintaining this global presence is astronomical. On top of that, the US has been involved in numerous conflicts over the years. Wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria have drained resources, and foreign interventions have further stretched the country's economic capacity. Much like the British Empire, the US has spread itself across the globe. Maintaining such an extensive military presence and economic commitments to foreign powers is no small feat, and, just like the empires before it, the financial burden is becoming too great. While the rest of the world rises, the US finds itself stuck in conflicts that no longer serve its interests as effectively. Number 5. Social and political division. An empire's greatest strength lies in its unity. Once that unity begins to break down, everything else follows. In the case of the United States, political polarization has reached an unprecedented level. There's no longer a shared vision of the future. People are divided by party lines, race, and ideology. The country feels more divided than it has in decades. Protests, racial tensions, and clashes between political factions seem to happen on a daily basis. Just like ancient empires before it, the United States is now dealing with a crisis of unity. The very things that made America great, its democracy, its sense of community, and shared values, are under attack, torn apart by divisive forces. Number 6, the American dream in decline? One of the cornerstones of the United States' rise has been the promise of the American dream, the idea that anyone, regardless of their background, can succeed through hard work and determination. But today, many are beginning to question whether the American dream is still attainable. Social mobility has significantly declined. The gap between the rich and the poor has widened. The cost of healthcare, education, and housing continues to rise, while wages stagnate. For many, the dream of upward mobility seems more like a myth than a reality. Just as the Roman Empire's wealth was hoarded by a small elite, the US is seeing the same trend, power and resources concentrated in the hands of a few, leaving the majority struggling. Number 7, environmental challenges, a growing concern. Every empire faces unique challenges, and for the United States, one of the most pressing issues today is the environment. Climate change is no longer a distant threat, it's a present reality. Wildfires rage across the West, hurricanes become more destructive, and rising sea levels threaten coastal cities. And yet, political inaction and corporate greed continue to block meaningful environmental reforms. Just as past empires ignored or downplayed the environmental consequences of their actions, the United States is now facing the fallout of decades of environmental neglect. Will the US rise to the occasion and address these challenges, or will it falter like the empires that came before it? Number 8, can the US adapt and survive? Here's the most important question. Can the United States avoid the fate of past empires, or is its decline inevitable? The answer depends on whether the country can adapt to the changing world around it. History has shown that empires that fail to change, that refuse to acknowledge their weaknesses, are doomed to fall. But empires that innovate, that learn from past mistakes, have the potential to thrive. The United States has faced existential challenges before and overcome them. The Civil War, the Great Depression, and the Civil Rights Movement were all moments where America faced a crossroads. And yet, the country emerged stronger each time. The question is, can the US do it again? Can it face its internal and external challenges head-on, reform its systems, and adapt to the modern world? Number 9, the future, a new path forward. One thing is clear, the future of the United States isn't written in stone. Whether it continues its role as the world's leading power or becomes another footnote in the history of fallen empires is up to us. It's not about being pessimistic, it's about recognizing the signs of decline and doing something about it. By addressing inequality, investing in the environment, repairing political systems, and uniting as a nation, the United States has the potential to forge a new future, one that doesn't repeat the mistakes of history. But change requires effort, it requires vision, and most importantly, it requires a collective will to preserve the best aspects of what makes this country great. As we've seen, the fall of empires is not inevitable. It's a process, one that starts slowly and often goes unnoticed until it's too late. The United States is at a crossroads. The question is, will we heed the lessons of the past, adapt to the changing world, and secure a future for the next generation? Empires may fall, but nations can rise again. It's up to us to determine the path we want to take. The time to act is now. If you found this video insightful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into history, politics, and what the future holds. And don't forget to leave a comment below. What do you think? Is the United States headed for a decline, or is there hope for the future?